Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and yeah, we've got some interesting stuff to talk about. So this image has been posted around apparently by Video Game Insights. It's a tool where you can see estimations on sales regarding pretty much any video game that you want. There's a Warhammer comparison there and it's pretty damn big. You can see there Total War Warhammer, keep in mind that this is free games, has been listed as the top when it comes to like Warhammer video games, which makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of DLC, it's free titles, but there's the estimated downloads of 10.1 million. This doesn't count DLCs, I'm assuming. I'm assuming this focuses more on the video games itself. And the estimated revenue of $431 million, which kind of makes sense. And we kind of more or less know this estimation to be true because it's something that we know when Creative Assembly had their biggest issues. We were all very much aware that Warhammer was keeping the lights on for Creative Assembly and allowing them to get funding for other projects like Hyenas, which was a financial mistake. But yeah, it's a big one when it comes to sales, and it's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger because of all the DLCs. We know that there's more DLCs to come this next year in 2025. Let's compare this though to other titles. Dawn of War, pretty much more or less the same in terms of downloads. Well, not so much because there's a massive difference between 10.1 million to 8.6 million people, but it made a lot more money. Gaming has become more expensive. DLCs have come into effect here. So yeah, I guess DLCs do add to the estimated revenue. Vermintide 7 million, which is pretty big, a lot of microtransactions obviously, which has skyrocketed up their revenue even though their downloads are so high. But keep in mind that they've also done like free weekends and they had some free to keep days also where you just download the game for free. Darktide, also pretty big. Space Marine on number 5, keep in mind that this is Space Marine 1. And then finally Rogue Trader, which I'm surprised Rogue Trader actually did so well. I don't know, I just felt like it just wasn't that big, but it was fairly decent. Now, there's definitely a few things to talk about here. One, Warhammer games are definitely very, very profitable. I'm surprised that the Gothic series isn't here, because I know it sold a fair amount, but obviously not as much as Rogue Trader. Now you can see why a lot of studios tend to pick up Warhammer titles, even if it's for the shit IPs, mostly just because they know that this will sell. This is why we've ended up with garbage developers doing stuff like Mordheim, where it was a pretty good premise, but it was very, very buggy. Necromunda, the same thing as Mordheim, honestly, it's very, very sad. They'll pick it up, it'll sell loads of copies, and then they'll abandon it. Thankfully, in recent years, we've had Games Workshop being a little bit more strict, and they've been a little bit better about dealing with developers abandoning titles, so they're dropping the hammer a little bit more, and it does make sure that at least games are going to get as much support as needed. Well, for the time being, things can change. But we got to talk about Total War. Yeah, it's very freaking profitable, as you can tell, and this is a big reason why a lot of creators, other than just the rumors, but for many years they'd go, yeah, the next obvious step after Warhammer Fantasy would be doing Total War 40k. Because if it's making this much, keep in mind that Warhammer Fantasy is not the popular IP for Games Workshop. If Warhammer 40k gets made, right, this is going to be double, maybe even triple the revenue. Again, it's very hard to tell because it needs to be a good game at launch, but Warhammer sells, it just generally sells. There have been loads of rumors that Thrones of Decay, a DLC that came out this year, at the beginning of this year, well, mid this year, sold around 1-point-something million copies. Again, we'll never know the true numbers. Creative Assembly never put out the numbers, but that rumor comes from a very reliable source. If a DLC like that is selling, now imagine that for 40k, with a race, or maybe, I don't know, go Gilliman versus Ferris Manus or whatever. I'm just putting out some random names here, right? Or a DLC like Yarrick versus Gazkul. That would sell stupid amounts of money. And that means that you can actually kill off Yarrick as Gazkul, rather than what Games Workshop did, which was kill him off screen by, what, Angron? Wow. So that would mean a shit ton of new players, a lot of revenue, and they could invest more into Total War, hopefully, and not make Hyenas 5. The big thing here that I want to talk about is it's very profitable, and it looks like Warhammer 3 is still very profitable in that case, which worries me a little bit. I'm kind of concerned that we're going to see 40k come out, announced in 2025 and released in 2026, but they will abandon Warhammer Fantasy. because that's what CA does. They tend to abandon previous titles for the new and shiny one. I think that this is a great example as to why two Warhammer games could be running at the same time. It's very easy to keep on doing DLCs, maybe if Games Workshop and Creative Assembly come into some sort of agreement regarding Warhammer the Old World to have a fresh timeline, or just keep developing the other races and factions that we don't have in fantasy just yet, like Int, Koresh, Nippon, and the rest. There's money to be made, and it's very obvious there's money to be made. This will also explain the idea, which is not really an idea, but more so a fact, that yes, Creative Assembly have been focusing more on Warhammer than historical because the money has been coming in, likely on the direction of Sega. There is so much money to be made with this franchise, and it's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger as Games Workshop and Warhammer in general gets more into the mainstream. They're one of those FSE 100 companies now, which is just wild. I'd like to see where Space Marine 2 landed here. I don't think that it'd be number 1, but it would likely be number 2 or number 3, because the Dawn of War series still makes a lot of money. People keep buying Dawn of War as it's so popular still. Dawn of War 1 is still peak, let's be honest there. Naturally, all these stats won't be 100% true, maybe just a little bit off. Estimations is a pretty difficult thing to get a hold of. It's never going to be fully known. But considering the stats of Total War Warhammer running at 30,000 players on average at the moment, and just how much traction it gets, you can see that it's a worldwide seller, and it's just going to keep getting bigger. I'd suspect that it was selling so hard, which is why we ended up getting Cafe and Kislev. Keep in mind that Cafe, and this is actually very well known, Cafe was never originally part of Warhammer 3. This is something that changed during mid-development, and that was something that was leaked out by a former member of Creative Assembly staff. So this is why I'm saying, the other races could be possible if the incentive is there, not just to CA, but also to our good friends at Games Workshop, who, let's be honest, they like money, and that stuff will make money. But yeah, a little bit of Warhammer information today. I'm sorry it's so late. I've been up and about, finally up and running, so I've been running around doing family stuff during the Christmas holidays. Yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Let's start a bit of a discussion. I'm curious to see what you guys think about this. This, to me, is basically why I think Total War Warhammer 40k, among other reasons, obviously, is going to be a thing. But this, if this money is true, they've probably been thinking about it since Warhammer 1, maybe mid-Warhammer 2, because Warhammer 2 was the big point for CA, where a lot of money was being generated naturally, that leading towards a bunch of passive sales towards the DLCs, which is still happening now. It's something that I've been aware of, been talking to some people about, and yeah, there is a lot of passive sales for DLCs. But yeah, have a great day, guys. I'll see you all again very, very soon.